So are
All
these
right,
bot
Salud.
endings? Oh,
Salwe. Let me set us up here. Salwe, welcome to another episode of Living Latin Live rather, episode 9. We're going to be looking at some past tense because we've had a couple weeks off and due to me being out sick, but here we're back and we're going to kind of review the story, but also review it as in the past tense. So yes, to answer your question, Allison, these are past tense variations of the words we've looked at before. So if you remember est, we're going to use erat, right? There was something. So everyone say erat.
Erat.
Mm-hmm.
The question I had is, do these bot
What were you going to
endings,
say?
are they past imperfect? Can you
Allison,
hear me? Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I got you. My internet kind of was a little weird.
I was
hear
just
you.
wondering if
Loud
the
and
bot
clear.
ending was equivalent to the Spanish aba endings for past imperfect. Is it past imperfect? These bot endings?
Ita. Mm-hmm.
Ita.
Yep. So I'm introducing these. We probably would use in some sense what you might call the preterite or perfect tense for habebat. But just to keep it simple in terms of forms, we're going to use this imperfect form. And then we could to set it up to transition a little bit. But yes, to explain the grammar a little bit, yes, is exactly like the Spanish. Because again, Spanish comes from Latin. So erat for est, right? Erat for est, we can see that. And then instead of habet, we're going to have habebat. You're going to stick that BA in there. Instead of wolt, it'll be wolebat. Instead of ad eat, remember that, it's going to be ad iwit. Yep, that form. Exactly. And then a dixit instead of a dikit, right? Dixit. So that abebat I actually should just change to abwit, but we'll leave it like that for now. I realize that I probably am mixing some tenses in here. But anyway, so we're not going to get all these done today. I just want to introduce a couple. We're going to focus on these first ones so we can recover a little bit of the story, but also kind of move between present and past tense. So we'll kind of play around with that a little bit. So omnes
Ita.
erat puer.
Oh.
And that's when you go. Ita erat puer. Erat puer. Omnes.
Ita.
Puer erat George. Puer erat George. So if we're going to talk about it now, it'd be omnes est puer, but we're talking about it in the past, puer erat. Right? To help us with this association, what would be a good maybe gesture or word association to help us understand that erat means was? What can you guys think of? A gesture or a word that sounds like erat that makes us think of was?
Since it's a verb in past tense, usually my Russian teacher does this, like this happened in the past.
I like that. That makes it easy. So,
although there's some languages where the past is in front of you, so.
Well, then you got future perfect, but we won't do that yet. So, omnes erat puer. Do this gesture. Oh, erat puer. Right in the past. Puer erat George.
Puer erat George.
Ita erat puer erat George. So let's kind of, again, let's like work through this a little bit so we can really get this form in our mind. So, omnes
Ita
eratne puer
Ita
minime eratne puer
Ita
omnes eratne puer an puella
erat puer
Ita erat puer, non erat puella, erat puer, omnes.
Ita.
Erat, eratne birota, eratne birota,
Minime.
ita minime.
I forgot what
Quid
birota was.
significat birota?
Ah,
Birota.
minime.
Do you remember?
Bicycle?
Bicycle.
Ita optime. I was just gonna put that on the board, but you guys remembered it. Good. Yeah. Birota. Bicycle. Oh, I'll just say bike. Make it easy. There we go. Bene. Ita. Eratne birota?
Minime.
Ita minime.
Minime.
Minime. Non erat birota, erat puer. Non erat puella, erat puer. Puer erat George. Omnes,
Ita.
Ita.
quis erat? Quis erat?
Erat
George.
George.
Ita erat George. Quid George erat?
Puer.
Quid?
George erat
Ita puer erat George. Ita
Puer
puer.
erat George.
George erat puer. Erat puer.
George erat
George erat puer. Optime. Una George.
Ita.
Tu erasne. Tu erasne. Let me make sure I don't have that up here. Sorry. Let me make sure I don't have that form up
Erasne.
there. Tu erasne tu puella.
Ita.
Tu es George. Tu eras puella.
Oh, minime.
Minime. Tu eras George. Tu non eras puella. Tu eras puer. Bene. Erasne. Una George.
Ita.
Ubi tu eras. Ubi tu eras. Ubi.
In
Ubi tu
California.
eras. Optime. Tu eras in California. Ita,
In
optime. Tu
California.
eras in California et tu eras puer. Omnes,
Ita.
Ita.
una George erat puer et erat in California.
Oh.
Oh, Allison George.
Ita.
Ubi tu eras. Ubi tu eras. Tu es George. Ubi tu
Yeah.
eras.
Eram in California.
Ita, tu eras in California. Et Allison George.
Ita.
Erasne puella.
Minime. Eram puer.
Ita, tu eras
Ego
puer.
puer.
Ita,
Ego
tu
sum puer.
eras puer. Optime, tu
Ego
eram
erat puer.
puer.
Ego
Ita,
sum
tu
puer.
eras. Oh, bene. Tu es puer nunc, et tu eras puer tunc. Bene?
Nunc and tunc.
Che tunc. Ita.
That's funny.
Nunc et tunc.
Nunc and tunc.
Nunc
Sound like two characters
et
from Asterix and
tunc.
Obelix.
Probably.
I don't know.
Ita. This is actually a good way to help move between tenses. So you can say, whoops, I just went a little farther. Nope, don't want that. Stop. Let's see. Ita nunc tu es puer, sed tunc tu quoque eras puer. I mean, you're still the same person, so
Ita.
that makes sense, I guess. Ita. Bene. Omnes
Ita.
Ita.
eramne laetus, magister eramne laetus.
Ita.
Ita?
Minime.
Minime. Non eram laetus. Non eram laetus
I thought that
quia
was George who wasn't happy.
minime. George non erat laetus sed ego quoque non eram laetus. Non eram laetus quia non habebam gelatum.
Oh,
Oh, ita. Non habebam gelatum. But let me go back. Let's I don't want to get too lost on new words. So let's keep moving here. Let me move some. Omnes.
ita,
Ita.
Erat puer in California. Oh, erat puer in California. Et omnes
ita,
quis erat puer in California.
George.
George.
George erat
George
puer
erat puer in California.
California.
Ita. Erat puer erat George, et George erat in California. Et omnes.
Ita,
Omnes.
ita.
Erat problema.
Oh.
Erat
Oh,
problema. Oh,
oh.
erat problema maxima. Erat problema maxima.
How do you say how
Problema.
sad?
Tristis.
Yeah,
Tristis.
tristissimos, tristisime. You make it an adverb like tristissime, something like that. Misere, probably be better.
Misa.
Omnes,
Ita.
George, problemam habebat.
Oh,
Oh.
Oh, now I gotta fix that. That shouldn't say
tristis.
had. I guess I got the wrong slide. It should be was having essentially, but we'll just kind of look at it as a past tense. So George problemam habebat.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh.
omnes.
Mhm.
Habebat ne George problemam.
Ita.
Ita.
Ita. Problema magnus.
Habebat ne George Coca-Cola.
Minime.
Minime non habebat.
It.
Omnes. Quis habebat problemam.
George.
Quis habebat. Ita. George habebat problemam. Et habebat ne George birotam.
Minime.
Minime.
Habebat ne George birotam an problemam.
George habebat problemam.
Problemam.
Ita George habebat problemam.
Magnum problemam.
Magnam problemam. Ita Una George. Habebasne. Let's see here. Oh, I got the wrong slides up here. That's terrible. Oh, mea culpa. That should say habebam, habebas, habebats. Looks like I got the wrong slide up. Anywho, omnes.
Ita.
Minime.
Ita.
Una George.
Ita.
Habebasne Coca-Cola.
Minime.
Minime, tu non habebas Coca-Cola. Habebasne problemam.
Ita. Problemam habet.
Ita tu habebas problemam magnam. Ita.
Ita.
Let me fix this. I thought I had the right slides up here. You know what? Let me pause for a second. What I'll do is I'll pull up the right slides. Let me see if I can. All right, salute. So we had a little break there. I had to like make a couple adjustments to the slides so you guys can see the actual forms on your screen. All right, so omnes.
Ita.
George problemam habebat.
Oh.
Una George.
Ita.
Habebasne problemam ita minime.
Ita.
Ita tu habebas problemam. Quid minime. Habebat minime. Habebasne birotam.
Minime.
Minime tu non habebas birotam. Habebasne Coca-Cola.
Minime.
Minime,
Coca-Cola.
tu non avebas Coca-Cola?
Volt. Coca-Cola Volt.
Ita, tu volebas Coca-Cola, sed tu non habebas Coca-Cola. Es problemam, minime, erat problemam magnam tibi, ita. Optime. Alice and George,
Ita,
habebas ne problemam?
ita, ego habebam magnus problemam. Magnus problemam
Ita,
habebam.
tu habebas problemam magnam.
Magnam.
Alice and George, habebas ne Coca-Cola?
Non habebo, non habebam Coca-Cola and non habeo Coca-Cola.
Ita,
Magnum
tu non...
problemam.
Ita, es magnum problemam. Tu non habebas Coca-Cola tunc, et nunc tu non habes Coca-Cola. Problema magnum est. Ita, problema magnum errate, problema magnum est. Optime. Omnes.
Ita.
Ita.
George, Coca-Cola non habebat.
Oh,
Oh, tristis erat. Omnes,
ita.
Ta.
erat ne George laetus?
Minime.
Minime.
George non erat
Minime.
nilla.
Erat ne George, ita, George non erat laetus. Erat ne George tristis?
Ita.
Ita.
George erat
Ita, George erat
tristis.
tristis. Omnes, erat ne George tristis quia Coca-Cola habebat?
Minime.
Minime.
Minime. Erat ne George tristis quia problemam habebat?
Ita.
Ita.
Ita, George erat tristis quia problemam magnam habebat. Coca-Cola non habebat. Ita. Omnes. George Coca-Cola volebat. Volebat.
Volebat.
Ita.
Oh,
Omnes,
ita.
Ita.
quis volebat Coca-Cola? No, quis
George.
volebat Coca-Cola?
George volebat Coca-Cola.
Ita, George volebat Coca-Cola. Et quid George, minime, quid George volebat? Quid George volebat?
Coca-Cola.
Volebat Coca-Cola.
Habebat ne George Coca-Cola?
Minime. George
George.
non habebat Coca-Cola.
My internet, it's kind of goofing up. Alice and George.
Ita.
W-
Mm. You froze.
let me
you
move
back?
to another part of my house because apparently my internet's not. Yeah, I'm back. Apparently my internet wasn't working. So let me move to another part of the house here. Oh, now it's dark and scary. Get this on episode 9. Lights out. Let me go ahead and turn a light on here. There we go. Okay, Alice and George.
Ita.
Volebas ne Coca-Cola?
Ita. Ego volebam Coca-Cola.
It
Ego vol Coca-Cola.
Ita, tu volebas Coca-Cola. Volebas ne birotam?
Minime. Ego habeo birotam. Ego non habeo Coca-Cola.
Ita, tu habes Coca-Cola, sed non habes Coca-Cola. Ergo tu volebas Coca-Cola. Et
Volebas.
ita, Ottime. Yuna George.
Ita.
Ubi tu eras. Ubi tu eras.
Ego.
Ubi.
California. California. Habe.
Tu eras. Ita, tu eras in
Oh.
California. Ita.
Ego.
Sed
California eras.
habebasne problemam.
Ita.
Quid est problemam tibi? Quid problemam eras? Minime, quid problemam erat tibi?
Coca-Cola non habet.
Ita, tu non habes Coca-Cola, ergo est problema magnam, ita?
Ita.
Bene. Omnes.
Ita.
George non erat laetus, erat tristis,
Oh.
ita. Omnes eratne George laetus,
Minime.
eratne George anxius,
Ita.
fortasse, ita. Quid significa
Fortasse.
anxius?
Anxious.
Anxious.
Ita, anxius. Anxius quia George non habebat Coca-Cola, habebat problema magnam, et George volebat Coca-Cola. All right, let's see. Let's try to kind of describe the situation, kind of consolidate what we've been looking at. So I'll just give an example, and then I'll turn over to you guys. So, omnes erat puer erat George. George erat in California, et problema erat, problema magna erat. George Coca-Cola non habebat. George volebat Coca-Cola. Et George non erat laetus, George erat tristis. All right, now, where are you at understanding things? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 means you understand it, and you don't have to look at the screen. All right, so you understand it, but now it's just about kind of incorporating these different verb forms in there. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a minute, describe the situation, try to consolidate, just be George, describe it from that first person perspective as if you're George. All right. Bene. All right, so let me go ahead and mute yourselves, and I'll give you 1 minute. Go. 1 minute, go. All right, go ahead and stop yourselves and unmute yourselves. Let's do a quick describe the situation here. All right, Una, George, you are George. Describe your situation. What's going on? But also remember, describe it as if you're telling it in the past. Tunk.
Okay, so eras puer eras George eras in California.
Tu eras George. Tu
Ego.
es George. Ita.
Ego eras in California. Ego magnus problemam habebam. Quia Coca-Cola non habebam.
Bene. Tu tu eras George, tu eras in California, et tu habebas magnam problemam, tu non habebas Coca-Cola, et tu volebas Coca-Cola. Bene? Ita. Alice and George,
Ita.
describe the situation. Tu es George, but describe it in the past. Uh-oh,
Eras,
Feliz.
eras puer, ego sum, ego erat puer, ego sum puer, ego sum George, ego habebat magnum problemam, ego magnum problemam habebat, ego volebat Coca-Cola, ego non habebat Coca-Cola. Magnum problemam erat. Magnum problemam est.
Ita, tu es George, tu eras George, tu habebas problema magnam, tu non habebas Coca-Cola, tu volebas Coca-Cola, sed nulla Coca-Cola erat in California. Es problema, erat problema magnam. Let's try this. Let's try this. Yuna, describe the situation as if you're George, but do it in the present tense. Go ahead, describe situation, but do it in the present as if you were George.
Okay. So Pueras, George. Ego sum in California. Magnum problemam habet, quia Coca-Cola non habet.
Bene. Tu es George. Tu es in California. Tu habes problemam magnam, quia tu non habes Coca-Cola, sed tu vis Coca-Cola. Bene? Optime. Alice and George, do the same. Describe the situation as if you're George, but in the present. I want to see if we can make sure we got the presents, and then we can throw in the past again.
Ego sum George, ego sum puer, ego volt Coca-Cola, but sed Coca-Cola non habeo.
Optime. Tu es George.
Magnum
Oh,
problemam.
Ita. Tu es puer. Tu es George. Tu habes magnam problemam. Tu non habes Coca-Cola. I think that's what you said. I'm trying to remember. There's one other thing you mentioned. Well, tu habes minimum, tu es in California. So,
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting about that.
no, that's
No,
okay.
I just keep saying I have a big problem.
Ita, magnum problemam habeo, ita, tu habes magnum problemam. So, sum becomes eram, es becomes eras, es becomes erat. So we'll probably work on that a little bit more, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a sense of kind of telling a story in the past, at least getting the forms down. Maybe it's not making a lot of, rational sense to be describing I was a boy, because you have to, that would imply that I'm not anymore, or I had a problem, when technically this is imperfect. I was having a problem, which we wouldn't say that in English really, right? You probably had a problem. But again, I'm just trying to give you a little bit of sense of how these forms work or how they can interchange, and hopefully recalling some of the story and the details and things like that. All right, are there any questions?
Yes.
Ita.
Is this going through summer?
Yeah, if you guys want, I think so. We can just continue doing it every Wednesday, 8:30-ish, same time, same batch channel. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put materials on like a Google Classroom. So that way you can refer to it a little bit more easier than having this random Google Doc out there.
Yeah.
So I'll do that. I'll put it together, and I know you said you wanted some kind of like reading practice, Allison. So that'll be fun. What I'll think I'll do is I'll write kind of a similar parallel story that incorporates the same vocabulary, but we're just changing the names to protect the innocent kind of thing. So that we can kind of get that. And then I think what we'll start doing is having you guys maybe write your own story. What I usually do with my Latin students is give them like a 5-minute timed write, and they have to write 100 words. So I think we're at that point where we can start seeing where you guys are at, but we'll do that later. But all right. Yeah, sorry, I had to get the slides fixed, but I think we made some decent progress. So now you can hopefully recall the story a little bit and actually have some past tense to mix with the present tense. We'll kind of continue to do that moving forward. So it just reinforces everything. But optime. All right. It's 9:30, so I wanted to give everybody a chance to get some rest, especially on their last week of school. Lucky Una. We got like another
Well,
month
next week
left.
is my
So.
last week.
Yeah.
But I'm almost
Yeah.
done.
All right.
Do you keep the
Well-
chat? I just left you a link to a story my husband